Have you ever noticed something strange? The more a person becomes spiritual, the less interested they sometimes become in being surrounded by people. They stop chasing attention. They stop trying to impress everyone. They become comfortable sitting alone, thinking deeply, and simply being themselves. And then a question appears: why are spiritual people often alone? Is something wrong with them? Are they socially disconnected? Or is there a deeper reason most people never understand? Stay until the end, because if you've ever felt alone even when people were around you, you may finally understand what's happening inside you. First, spirituality changes what you value, and when your values change, your relationships can change too. A person who once enjoyed endless gossip may suddenly find it exhausting. A person who once needed constant attention may no longer care about being noticed, and someone who once wanted everyone to approve of them may suddenly ask a completely different question: do I actually need their approval? That one question can change the way you see your entire life. But here's where it gets interesting. Spiritual people aren't necessarily alone because they dislike people. Sometimes, they're alone because they no longer want relationships that require them to pretend. They want honesty. They want peace. They want meaningful conversations. They want people who can understand their silence without constantly demanding an explanation. And those kinds of connections are rare. Think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever been surrounded by people and still felt completely alone? That's because being surrounded by people isn't the same as feeling connected. You can sit in a crowded room and feel invisible. And you can sit alone in your room and feel completely at peace. So maybe the real question isn't, why am I alone? Maybe the better question is, what kind of company am I willing to accept? This is where many people misunderstand spirituality. They assume spiritual people don't have emotions, but often, the opposite is true. They may actually feel things more deeply. They notice small changes in people's behavior. They recognize when a conversation feels fake. They notice when someone's kindness comes with an expectation. And once you start noticing these patterns, it's difficult to unsee them. That's when ordinary social interaction can start feeling exhausting. But there's another reason spiritual people often choose solitude. Solitude gives them something the outside world constantly takes away: silence. Think about modern life: notifications, social media, messages, news, opinions, entertainment. Everyone is constantly telling you what to think, what to want, what to buy, and even how you should live. But when you finally become alone, the noise starts disappearing, and something unexpected happens. You begin hearing your own thoughts. You begin noticing what you actually feel. You begin asking questions you were too distracted to ask before. What do I really want? Who am I when nobody is watching? Am I living my life, or someone else's idea of my life? And that is where solitude becomes powerful. Because solitude isn't necessarily loneliness. Loneliness says, I wish someone were here. Solitude says, I am okay with myself even when nobody is here. There is a huge difference. And if you've recently started enjoying your own company, don't immediately assume something is wrong with you. Maybe you're changing. Maybe your standards are changing. Maybe you're becoming less interested in shallow stimulation and more interested in meaning. But there's one important warning. Solitude should never become isolation. You still need human connection. You still need friendship. You still need people you can trust, laugh with, and talk to when life becomes difficult. Spirituality isn't about escaping humanity. It's about understanding yourself well, enough to connect with others without losing yourself. And here's something you may need to hear today. If you feel alone right now, don't automatically interpret that loneliness as rejection. Sometimes, certain relationships simply stop fitting the person you're becoming. And yes, that can hurt. You may miss people. You may question yourself. You may wonder, why don't I fit in anymore? But perhaps you don't need to fit into every room. Perhaps you need to find the rooms where you can actually be yourself. Because the right people won't require you to become someone else just to belong. And remember this: being alone doesn't always mean you're unwanted. Sometimes it means you're becoming more selective about what you allow into your life. Your silence may not be emptiness. Your distance may not be arrogance. Your solitude may simply be the space where you're discovering who you really are. So if you're currently going through a lonely season, don't rush to fill the silence with people who don't understand you. Use that silence, learn from it, grow through it, and when the right people eventually enter your life, you won't need them to complete you. You'll simply appreciate them for who they are. Because the goal of spirituality isn't to become someone who needs nobody. The goal is to become someone who can stand alone and still love people deeply. So if you've been feeling different lately, If crowds don't excite you like they used to, if you're becoming comfortable with your own company, maybe you're not becoming antisocial. Maybe you're simply becoming more aware of what truly matters to you. And perhaps the biggest lesson is this: you may not be losing people. You may simply be losing the need to be someone you're not.